You ever wonder, what's the one thing a country absolutely must have to develop? I'm not talking about something that helps a little. I mean the one thing that, if you don't have it, nothing else even matters. Well, that's the whole idea behind a sine qua non, the essential ingredient. And in this explainer, we're going to uncover exactly what that is.
Now, these insights aren't just out of thin air. They come from a book that's in the works by the Angolan jurist António Andrade Fernandes Bernardo. So what we're about to do is get a kind of sneak peek at a huge idea, one that really challenges everything we thought we knew about how a nation can prosper.
And really, it all comes down to this one single question. You think about all the important stuff for a country: education, healthcare, industry. But what is the one condition that's so foundational that without it, all those other things just fall apart?
All right, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to tackle this enigma of development. Then, we'll get into the diagnosis of the problem, reveal the sine qua non itself, check out where the idea comes from, and finally, look at a really bold proposal to make it happen. Let's dive in.
So, let's start with this development enigma. I mean, for decades, right? Countries have been pouring money and effort into these super detailed plans for progress. So why do so many of them just not work? The core idea we're exploring is that we've been missing something huge and fundamental, again and again.
Think of it like this. You could have the most amazing blueprints, the best wood, the best crew of builders you could find. But if you try to build that house on soft sand without pouring a solid concrete foundation first, you know what's going to happen. It's going to collapse. The argument here is that a lot of development plans are doing exactly that. They're busy building the fancy walls and the roof, but they completely forgot the one thing that had to go in first.
And that failure to see the foundation, that leads us to the main diagnosis here, a perda da noção. It's Portuguese, and it basically means a loss of notion. You know, it's like we've all got this huge collective blind spot, and it's stopping us from seeing what's right in front of our faces.
Okay, let's make this real with an example. The way most people think is, yeah, roads are important, for getting crops from the farm to the market. But according to the author, that's a minimalist vision. It totally misses the point. Roads aren't something you build after you have stuff to sell. They are the absolute precondition that makes all that production, all that trade, and all those services even possible to begin with.
But you know what's really fascinating? The most powerful proof for this might just come from the people on the ground. This quote from Angolan peasants, it says everything. We want the roads in good condition and the rest will follow. They get it. They understand deep down that the rest, all the economic activity, all the opportunities, simply cannot happen without that basic physical connection.
Okay, so if this loss of notion is the problem, what's the big solution? What is this one essential thing, this true sine qua non of development we've been talking about?
All right, but first, we need to be on the same page about what development even means in this context. It's not just about a rising GDP number. It's about the ability of the entire population, every person, to actually get a piece of the wealth that a country produces. Access for everyone, not just growth for a few. That's the key.
And that brings us right to the heart of it. The sine qua non, the absolute non-negotiable foundation for all development, is this: the ability for people, for goods, for ideas to circulate safely and permanently across the entire country. Simple as that. Without that freedom to move, widespread access to wealth is just a pipe dream.
Now that is a pretty bold claim. So where's the proof?
Well, the argument is built on two incredibly strong pillars, one from history and one from philosophy.
History shows us a crystal clear pattern. Powerful nations, all the way from ancient Persia to the British Empire, built their strength on controlling the pathways of communication. I mean, just look at the Roman Empire, right? All roads lead to Rome. Those famous roads weren't just for soldiers. They were the arteries of the empire, pumping trade, culture, and information to every single corner. The lesson is simple. If you control movement, you control your destiny. And then there's the philosophical side, which is actually super practical when you think about it. Progress isn't some abstract thing that happens on a spreadsheet. It's physical. You have to be able to literally touch a resource to turn it into something valuable. And ideas? They don't have wings. People have to carry them. Without the ability to travel and meet and exchange, you might get a rich city over here or a productive farm over there, but you will never, ever weave it all together into a truly developed nation. So this is a huge idea, right? But how do you actually do it?
how do you make it real? This brings us to our last section and a really concrete plan for putting this idea right at the center of how a country is run.
Well, the whole thing gets packed into this one pretty brilliant acronym, POPCISET. It stands for the possibility of permanent circulation in security throughout the entire territory of the state. See? It's not just some vague policy goal. It's a clear, actionable mission.
This idea is so important, it's actually framed as the supreme, immediate interest of the state. Think of it this way. A country's final goal, its ultimate purpose, is the well-being of its citizens. But how do you achieve that? POPCISET is the immediate interest. It's not the final destination. It's the mandatory bridge you have to build and cross to get there.
And when you lay it out, the logic is kinda undeniable. Step 1, a state exists to serve its citizens. Step 2, serving them means giving them access to the country's wealth. Step 3, that access completely depends on POPCISET. So the conclusion, step 4, guaranteeing this freedom of movement has to be a supreme constitutional duty of the state.
And to make sure this isn't just some suggestion that gets ignored later, the proposal is to make it a clausula petria. That literally means a stone clause in the Constitution. It's unchangeable. This would force any government, no matter their politics, to make building and maintaining this national circulatory system their permanent, #1 job.
So, let's just end on this thought. The argument we've just walked through is that the most powerful solution to development was hiding in plain sight this whole time, understood by regular people but maybe missed by the experts. And it just makes you wonder, if a simple, foundational truth like this could be overlooked for so long, what other simple truths are we ignoring right now in all the other complex problems we're trying to solve?